Our Heavenly Father, for our community, for our state, for our nation, we give you thanks. For this Rotary Club, for all of our members, for the families that we represent, for this food before us, we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Sergeant. Terry Duffy, family Rotary.
Thank you very much, President Josh. Hope everybody's having a great day. You know, it's always kind of interesting to me when you're out and about seeing fellow Rotarians. And one place that I'm on, I guess, on a regular basis is public supermarket out on 84. And when I think about fellow Rotarians, I usually see Alan. Alan seems to be in there working day and night, and it's always great to stop and visit with him for a moment. You can also tell a lot about shopping patterns. I saw Art Morris yesterday, Sunday morning. That's usually a time when I go early Sunday morning. I saw Art. Art is a thrifty shopper because he always just has the basket, you know, the carry-out basket, a couple of items. And maybe the reason he keeps his weight down, he's not like me buying ice cream. And then George Flowers. Go in the afternoon, and I promise you, you're gonna see George Flowers. I mean, usually we visit, that's where we visit, is the public supermarket. And then, I don't know if he's here today, John Gordon. What a whole different case. Yeah, John Gormley goes to Publix so much, and if you go to Publix, you know, they rearrange that darn store all the time. But John Gormley goes so much, and you can verify this. And if you see him in there, you can't find some, ask John. The employees in Publix ask John where stuff is, and how much John goes. We'll get off of that. Anyway, birthdays, we're gonna do this one again. I said I'd do it last week because she was out, she was sick. But Jenny Logan last week. This week, the birthdays are Tom Sorrell and Meredith Flowers on August the 2nd. Wes Grant on August 3rd, Dennis Coe, Dr. Coe on August the 4th, Tara Black on August the 6th. Anniversaries, Danny Sharp and Vicky August 5th, and none other than Jim Whaling and Joy on August the 6th. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Al Reynolds is going to come forward and introduce our guest visiting Rotary.
Hey, good morning. It's certainly great to have guests and visiting Rotarians with us this morning. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until all the names have been called. First, we have Stephanie Crow, guest of Paul Lee. We have Cooper Trent, guest of Paul Lee. We have Sarah Beth Riker, guest of Rick Riker. Visiting Rotarians this morning, we have Michael Smith, guest of Walter Hill. Rotarians, please help me welcome them.
Glad to have y'all with us today. Linda Payton is going to come forward for the camp basket draw.
I will do this. I probably shouldn't, because somebody has lost their free tickets. You bought free tickets, check. I might have your winning.
Definitely going to be one of those three. Last four are 6360. All right. As he comes forward, we have 1,785 points.
I have never won. I've never even got to.
See?
Hey,
Still lives on. Thank you, Ms. Linda. All right, a couple announcements today. Yes, probably need to. Which one? L2. A couple announcements today. Everyone should have a flyer on your table. Tomorrow is the Paysetter kickoff, Walter.
Yes, sir, right here.
We're gonna have a big turnout and 50,000 meals So hope to see a good showing by Dothan Rotarians tomorrow. Starts at 8:30. So come support Wiregrass United Way. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Tom West and Arthur Gardner to come forward.
It's Arthur's fault.
Gentlemen, the presentation of a Paul Harris Fellow is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for its substantial contribution to its humanitarian and educational programs. This honor is named for Rotary's founder, Paul Harris, who started Rotary in 1905. It is because of gifts like yours that the Rotary Foundation is able to carry out an array of programs that achieve beneficial changes in our world. We congratulate you and we thank you for your commitment to the programs of the Rotary Foundation. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join me in recognizing as multiple recipients of Paul Harris Fellow. Tom, I have Paul Harris +3. And Mr. Arthur, Paul Harris +1. Thank you. Congratulations. I'd like to ask Greg Hendricks to come forward, please.
In a minute, I want to ask Jim Kelly to come up, but I want to say a couple things first. You ever known someone and you thought, well, when did I first meet that person? And then you realize, I have no idea. It was so long ago. Jim, I think it was probably in the early 70s. Didn't you work in Geneva at that time? Vincent Holson.
I was a Rotarian too.
Rotarian too. All right. Well, Jim has decided that it's time to move on to honorary membership. And when I gave my little talk, my swan song, I mentioned one of the reasons I like Rotarians is they're the kind of people that when they tell you something, you can just decide, you can just go ahead and mark it off your list that it's done. If Jim Kelly tells you he'll call you, he calls you. If he says he's going to do something, he does it. And Jim, we want to thank you for what you've contributed to this club and to this city and this region. And you would come forward, I'd like to present you with this honorary membership. Sir.
I feel that this time passed. I think I joined this club some 40-something years ago. And it's been such a pleasure, the people I got to know, and I particularly want to thank one person that was my sponsor with John Watson. He's sitting with me today. So thank you, John, for bringing me in and giving me an opportunity to know all these people and be around them. It's been a pleasure in my life to have done that. Thank you.
All right, Marcus Cannon is going to come forward today and introduce our speaker.
I want to thank everyone for being here today. Look forward to hearing this program. I get the privilege of introducing this lovely young lady over here, Miss Pamela Miles. She is the owner of Change My Mind Neurofeedback Therapy and Consulting, where she provides neuro-optimal neurofeedback to help individuals optimize their brain and reach their fullest potential. She has over 25 years of experience working with children and families of trauma. Pamela is a certified trauma specialist and a certified advanced neuro-optimal neurofeedback trainer. Have this in common with Pam. We're both graduates with postgraduate and undergraduate from Troy University, so go Trojans. Pamela opened Change My Mind with the goal of assisting community leaders in operating at their highest capacity, enabling athletes to achieve peak performance, helping individuals improve their overall brain health. She believes that neuro-optimal neurofeedback is a valuable tool for achieving these goals. Pam has called Dothan home for over the past 20 years. She has been happily married to her husband, Jeff Miles, 26 years, and is a proud mother of 2 grown children, Patrick and Haley. I had the opportunity to meet Patrick on Friday morning, and very smart young man. He has graduated from the University of Southern Miss, and his sister Haley looks to do so here within the next year also. Please help me welcome Ms. Pam Miles.
Hey, so most of y'all know me from, if you do know me, you know me from the Exchange Center for Toxic Prevention, which I'm still at. I'm the executive director there, and that is absolutely my #1 priority and my absolute passion. I love our mission and what we serve, and that's kind of how I ended up getting into this. Doing the neurofeedback was reading the book, The Body Keeps Score, and learning how trauma changes our body physiologically and how it affects our brain. And so I started actually using this tool in our agency, working with children of trauma, because I thought that it was so important for us to help give them every opportunity to truly thrive in life and to meet their full potential. But what I learned about this tool is it's good for everybody's brain. And so I had a lot of community leaders asking me if they could try it out and see what it does. And it really helped them increase their performance in terms of being able to focus, in terms of being able to sleep better, have a really deep REM sleep, and also in terms of being able to easily shift in and out of different brain states that they need to be in order to optimize their performance. And so I started to change my mind actually a couple of years ago, but we actually started doing neurofeedback last year. So neurofeedback is actually a brain optimization tool. It's a wellness tool. It's not a medical device. It doesn't actually do anything to push your brain. I initially got trained in linear neurofeedback, which is where you actually look at an EEG, you read the EEG, and you make a diagnosis, and then you create a protocol and you push somebody's brain into optimization. And that kind of scared me because I thought, well, you know, maybe you develop some adaptive behaviors to help you cope with your ADD or your independence or whatever. So I didn't really like pushing somebody's brain, because also you can push them into a high level of anxiety or out of a sleep state, those types of things. I didn't really want to get into that. So this is considered a wellness tool. And it's specifically for peak performance. It's to create a flow state. How many of you have ever been into your office and you get in that flow state and you don't want anybody to interrupt you because you're getting more done in 2 hours time than you would in 8 hours in the course of any other day? That's what a flow state is. Inevitably, somebody usually comes and interrupts us when we're trying to get in that flow state, right? But that's where we want to be at, because that's where we're at our optimal level at. That's where we can get the most work done. And so this is what requires mental resilience, it requires focus, and it requires ability for us to shift in and out of different brain states. How can neurofeedback optimize your brain for peak performance? It can help you to have a resilient brain that can easily shift in and out of those different brain states. Self-regulation is the goal of the brain. When you talk to employers, you talk to teachers, you talk to individuals, and they tell you what their biggest issues are, they're typically not their ability to do their job. They're able to do that task, but it's their ability to take criticism or feedback from their bosses, to get along with their coworkers, to be efficient with their time. Those are the types of things that they struggle with. And to regulate their emotions a lot of times. And so did you know that turbulence actually shows up in your EEG, where we can see where your brain's not functioning at its highest capacity? How many of you have ever seen your EEG? The scan of your brain working? So when I went to this training out in San Antonio, they put my brain up on the board for everybody to see, and there were probably 30 people in there. And if you know me, you know I'm very fast moving. I talk fast, I move fast, I do everything fast, right? Well, my brain showed that. Everybody else's brain looked like a symphony. It was just so smooth and easy, and my brain was just going crazy up there. But that's those adaptive behaviors that I've developed to be able to help me cope with things like being ADD and a little too fast paced. So different things can cause turbulence in your brain. Some people struggle with anxiety. This can cause your brain to become very erratic and very turbulent. It's hard to think when you're in an anxiety state. It's a very heightened state of arousal, and it usually leads to overactivity in different brain regions, which changes up your brainwave patterns. Whenever you hear people talk about, I lay down at night to go to sleep, and my brain just starts kicking off all these issues and problems that I've had throughout the day, or starts doing predictive thinking about all the problems I'm going to have the next day. A lot of times that's their brain shifting into that anxiety state, right? That heightened state. So it doesn't really matter what else they're doing. They're experiencing anxiety and they can't calm their brain down enough to be able to go to sleep. Sleep deprivation is a huge problem. How many people in here get more than 7 hours of sleep a night? Very few people do, especially quality sleep. So I have always functioned off of about 4 hours of sleep a night. And anybody that is a friend of mine that has teenage kids, that I always tell my kids to call Miss Pam if there's ever an emergency, because she'll hear her phone. No matter what time it is, she'll be awake and alert. She'll get, she'll handle it. Because right now I go to bed late, I get up early. Go to bed at midnight, I get up at 4. And that's just been how I functioned my whole life. Well, this past 2 years ago, my mom developed dementia. And I started reading about dementia and what that meant. She's 68 years old, and she was an auditor at the Fort Rucker for the federal government. Super intelligent woman, did everything she's supposed to do. They say, you're supposed to do to protect her brain, but sleep and probably didn't eat right. She had a good Southern diet, right? But so I started reading up on things that I could do to prevent having dementia, because obviously that's a fear that comes to my brain now. And what I read is about how essential quality sleep is. So it doesn't matter that I can function off of 4 hours of sleep. That's those adaptive behaviors that I've developed. What matters is that my brain's not being able to replenish. And so it can cause turbulence in your brain whenever you're not sleeping well. It causes a lot of things that lead to emotional problems, cognitive dissonance, not able to pick up on things as fast, those types of things. And at the end of this, I'm going to tell you a few more facts about sleep that I learned that really shocked me. But also having chronic stress in your life can cause a lot of brain turbulence. When you experience a lot of chronic stress, your brain is a predictive organ, right? And so it starts to predict things to be stressful or things to be bad or to have negative outcomes. And it starts to create these ruts, these worry ruts, where you all the time start to think things are going to get bad, and your brain just goes down that little path. And the way that you reset that includes a lot of different things, but this Neurooptimal is a great tool to be able to do that, so that you don't have to live in that heightened state of arousal. And also where your body's not completely flooded with cortisol all the time, which is toxic for your body. Trauma, which is what led me down this pathway, right, can also cause a person's brain waves to become really dysregulated, leading to turbulence, and it can disrupt the normal functioning of the brain, leading to irregular brain patterns. So for a lot of the kids that we work with that have grown up in trauma, their brain never developed the way that it should have to start with. They were always fired for fight or flight because of the trauma that they lived in. And I knew that. But what I didn't realize until my daughter developed dysautonomia, which is an autonomic nervous system issue, is that our body doesn't know the difference between a medical trauma or a childhood trauma, right? So whenever her body got stuck into fight or flight, she had insomnia. She went from being a perfectly healthy young lady to, she ran the trail at Westgate. She ran it twice and came home perfectly fine. And the next day she couldn't stand up. And that went on for about 6 months, where she couldn't walk. She couldn't sleep. And her heart rate, her resting heart rate was about 150 all the time. We finally sought out a clinic in Chicago. And one of the first things they did with her was neurofeedback. And they showed me her brainwaves. And they said, this is why, even though she doesn't feel anxious, and even though she does have the coping skills she needs to regulate herself, she can't feel regulated. It's because her brainwaves now were thrown into crisis mode and they're stuck there. You could see that her beta was through the roof. So it didn't matter that she would do all those calming things that you're supposed to do when you lay down to go to sleep at night because her brainwaves were so out of whack. They did 2 neurofeedback sessions with her because she's younger. So of course her brain's a lot more plastic, it's a lot more moldable. And so she was able to shift really quickly. Plus most of her life has been positive, right? She's been surrounded by love, nurturing environment, she's healthy. So she didn't have that really deep rut that she had to break out of. She was sleeping like a baby within 2 days. Again, 8 hours of sleep, which helped her body heal and helped reset her. Now she's, we hope, graduating at from Southern Miss next year. If she doesn't, it's going to be because she's playing too much, not because her brain's not working right. And then turbulence in brainwaves can feel like trouble focusing, different mood changes, constant headaches, procrastination, memory issues, sleep issues, feeling really anxious, chronic worry, anger, rage, poor impulse control, and brain fog. Brain fog was another thing that she really struggled with that the neurofeedback helped her with. And this isn't something that was accessible to us. And so even though I was using this at our agency for our kids of trauma, it wasn't something that whenever other people from the community would ask, I'd tell them about how successful this is, how incredible it is for helping people truly optimize. I've had several clients come completely off of their ADD medicine. I've had some be able to come off their anxiety medication because of doing this. It helped them regulate so much, but they didn't have anywhere to go and do that. So that's why I opened up, changed my mind so that we could make this accessible. It's basically your brain works off of 5 different frequencies. It has your delta waves, which the normative range for that would be 0.5 to 4 hertz. And so that just means if you were to put 100 people in the system that were, that's where their normal range would be. And so whenever you can be in your delta wave associated with a really deep sleep, so that REM sleep that you have is when you're in really high delta. Your theta waves, and this is what they use sometimes when they do the linear to diagnose like ADD, because their theta is really high, it would be normally between 4 and 8 hertz. This is associated with relaxation, visualization, and creativity. And then your alpha waves between 8 to 12 hertz, and it's associated with relaxation, calmness, and basically being in that meditative state. You want to access your alpha when you want to be in that flow state. And then your beta waves, which is 12 to 30 hertz. And this is associated with active thinking, alertness, and concentration. When this gets too high, it can be deeply associated with anxiety, which causes people a lot of sleep issues. And then your gamma waves are associated with your higher mental processing, perception, and your consciousness, which should be between 30 and 100 hertz. So the way that neurofeedback helps is it helps people to develop and strengthen healthier brainwave patterns, rewire their electrical functioning over time, and it's essentially exercise for your brain. The way that it's different from going to the gym is, if you go to the gym, it's similar to going to the gym in the way that you need to go repeatedly to see the results. If you were to go to the gym once every 3 weeks, you wouldn't see those results as well. If you go 3 times a week, you're going to see those results as well. But it's different in that once you've established the optimizing of your brain, is it stays that way unless there's some kind of outside trauma that throws you back into fight or flight. And then you would need like touch-up sessions. And so neurooptimal neurofeedback is safe. It's actually considered to be 100% safe by the FDA for people of all ages, and it's a non-medical intervention. It's not pushing your brain in any way. It's non-invasive. There's no electrical stimulation involved. Instead, neurooptimal provides the central nervous system with an accurate information about itself. So essentially what it does is it is the same as when you wake up in the morning, you might feel like you look good, right? And then you look in the mirror and you're like, man, my hair's a mess. I got stuff in my eyes. I'm not looking that great. Say you wash your face, you brush your teeth, you fix your hair. Well, so that's what happens when this reads your EEG. It puts it back into the software, which then mirrors it back to your central nervous system. And it says through the music that you're listening to, through the audible interruptions, that, hey, you're not operating at peak performance right now. This is not where you should be. And then your brain, because your brain is a self-optimizing organ, it self-corrects for peak performance. It's natural. It naturally maximizes the brain's innate capabilities for self-regulation, resilience, and flexibility. And it's effortless. You actually connect to the system. You have 2 wires that are on each side of your head for your EEG. You have 2 grounding wires on each ear and then 1 on your earlobe. And then you sit there and you listen to really relaxing music for 33 minutes in a recliner. And at the end of the 33 minutes, you're done. You'll hear mild interruptions, almost like if you were to have a short in your wire. Back when you used to use wired headphones, if you were to have that short in your wire, those are the interruptions. And that's basically the communication with your central nervous system telling you, hey, something's off. So what people think neurofeedback looks like, a lot like this. I have people say, you're not messing with my brain, you know. But it's really not. It's optimizing your brain. It's not changing anything. Your brain is having to make the decision to shift. So it's not pushing you in any way. This is what it actually looks like. And if you can see that picture in the bottom corner, that's actually the machine. It's a Microsoft, not Pro, I think is the book. And it shows your brain waves on this little colorful pattern to see what it is. But it's not a diagnostic tool. It's not intended to be diagnostic. And the makers of it made it that way on purpose, because it's not trying to label anybody as anything. If we were at that conference and you looked at my brain on that screen, at first I felt a little self-conscious. I was like, my gosh, their brain looks beautiful and mine is going crazy up there. And the lady asked me if I was functioning. She was like, I mean, are you pretty high functioning? I was like, I mean, I think I am. You know, I feel like I'm making it okay. You know, so I felt a little self-conscious at first, but then we did another thing when we did the biofeedback. And part of that biofeedback is that we had to count backwards and track backwards. Like from 1,078, we had to take away 6 and go all the way down as fast as we can. And I'm the only one that could do it. So I was like, I think my brain's doing better. But it's because I stayed regulated. There was a lady that was a PhD psychologist, incredibly brilliant woman. She couldn't get past the first number. And that's because when our brain is in a stress mode, our IQ literally drops. Your IQ can go from 120 to 60 when you're in stress. Dr. Bruce Perry has some research on it. He showed you the brain science behind it. So she was stressed out, and afterwards she was like, I feel so dumb. I can't believe I couldn't do the math on that. And I was like, well, think about your brain and how it operates under stress. And I was like, the difference between you and me, I actually am horrible in math. And I was like, but I could do it because I wasn't stressed. Y'all had already written me off. I didn't have any pressure. Y'all saw my brain and you're like, oh, this girl. But it is a really incredible tool for optimizing your brain and helping you to stay regulated in moments that other people would be typically dysregulated. How it works, the software actually monitors your brain waves for certain shifts that happen. It basically labels these as turbulence that are in your brain. It uses a really complex mathematical algorithm in the software that tells your brain through the break-in music that there's something wrong. And this interruption invites your brain to return its attention to the present state. The complexity is all in the software. It does all of the work. People ask me all the time to tell them really specifically how this works, and so they can understand it and they can wrap their mind around it. And I tell them, well, I know it works because I've used it, and so have about 40 other people that I've had incredible experiences with, that I've had nobody that hasn't said their sleep doesn't improve, that they're not doing better at work, that they're not more focused, that they don't have less procrastination. Not one person has said that. But I explained it kind of like, you know, tell me how a cell phone sends a picture. It doesn't. We all receive the picture, right? Does anybody know how that happens? I mean, it amazes me. I'm still amazed with technology. Every time I get an email, immediately I'm like, oh my God, you just did that, you know? So it's just complexity in the software. It's dynamical neurofeedback, so it treats the whole brain versus the linear, where you have to diagnose and you work on just the beta or just the theta by rewarding and inhibiting certain actions of the brain. It promotes long-term changes in brain function, so it's not something you have to keep doing. It is something that when you're younger, you might be able to do 4 or 5 sessions, and when you're older, you might need to do 30 sessions for it to stick, just because of the plasticity of our brain and how that changes. Increase overall well-being. That training session is very relaxing. You hook up to the machine and you train, and then you literally do nothing. You can sit there and play on your phone. You can read text messages. You can sleep. You can read a book. You can do whatever you want. I always invite people to just take time to sit there, you know, and do nothing, because we don't get a lot of opportunity to do that. And then it optimizes your brain. What you can expect when you do brain training is mental resilience. It'll enhance your ability to stay calm in really stressful situations. Stress management enhances your ability to truly have the capacity to manage your stress. which is a big deal. I don't run into anybody nowadays who don't talk about how stressed they are. Your sleep habits, experiences the joy of actually deep sleeping. I tell everybody I sleep like a teenager again. I never say a baby because I've never known a baby to sleep that well. And then peak performance, work to improve performance, anxieties, and thrive. A lot of people that have test anxiety do this. We've partnered with ACOM and did some things with them. We partnered with Wiregrass Foundation. We've worked with our Exec Connect leaders for our nonprofits, and everybody has had a positive experience from this. In terms of that, focus and mental acuity improves your memory, your focus, your concentration, and your understanding. Your emotional resilience so that you can bounce back from really hard things, and then your physical resilience because it improves the body. The command center, a lot of people use it for pain management type of things too. It's 33 minutes of your life. Change your mind, change your life. So I told y'all I'd give y'all a few more tips about sleep and things that I learned that actually kind of blew my mind as somebody that used to view sleep as a complete waste of time. And when I started sleeping, making myself like try to get that 7 hours of sleep, people would say, "Are you feeling better?" And I'd say, "No, it's really frustrating because all I can think about is all the things I could have gotten done by the time I was asleep." But peak performance requires us to stay in control of our emotions and actions. And to do this, we have to stay conscious and the very civilized part of our brain in those frontal lobes, right? So when we sleep, the brain actually stores new information and gets rid of toxic waste every night when we're asleep. And it takes it at least 7 hours to do that. Nerve cells communicate and reorganize, which supports healthy brain functioning while we're asleep. And the body repairs cells, restores energy, and releases molecules like hormones and proteins when we get enough sleep. So I never valued sleep like I do now. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who works in child abuse prevention, I believe in prevention in every aspect of that word. When it comes to your health and taking care of yourself and your brain health, your brain operates every single thing that happens in your body. And we never think about what we can do and what our role is in keeping that healthy. So this is just one of the tools that you can use to optimize your brain and have peak performance. Every time I think about, the priority I put in that, I think I've never even thought about my brain. It's always just kind of worked until I saw my mom stop it. And then that changed my perspective. So that's part of the reason I opened this business. And I've always worked in nonprofit. I've always loved that work, but I had somebody speak over me that, sometimes when we can help our leaders, we have the ability to have even greater of an impact, because I've always thought about helping the least of these, and I love that, and I'll never stop doing that. But our leaders also are very impactful, and we need them to be at peak performance as well. We need them to have a resilient brain that can move in and out of different brain states based off the need. So when we need to sleep, we need to be able to shift into sleep. When we need to focus, we need to be able to shift into focus. When we need to be high-level thinking, we need to be able to think in a problem-solving mode. All of those things matter. And if you can't usually shift in and out of those different brain states, then this is a tool that might be something you want to consider. So I'll take any questions. I put some brochures on your tables. I have some more up here if you want them. This is something that we have people all ages come in. It's also a machine that you can rent and take home. That's mostly what I do is rent these machines and people take them home for 5 weeks so they can get their sessions in, because it does require a lot of sessions. It's like 25, sessions is what most adults would do, not to feel the difference. It's usually like 5 or 6 sessions before you start feeling a major change. But for it to stick, it's usually 25 to 30 sessions. For kids, it's usually 5 to 10 sessions, depending on, I work with the trauma, so it's going to be like 15 sessions for them because their brain didn't organize correctly to start with. Okay.
How much is it per session?
Per session, if you come into the office, we do it $80 per session. I always recommend people to rent it because it's $1,200 for 5 weeks and your whole family can use it. So it's a much cheaper way to be able to do it. Yeah. Okay. So let them know. Okay.
So is the 33-minute session customized? You're hooked up, so it's detecting what's wrong with you, and then the music is gonna be the right frequency for you. It's custom kind of.
Every session you do will be different too, because your brain is gonna be different every time you do a session. But yeah.
That's what the algorithm's doing, is it It's looking at what's going on in your brain, so you need a theta wave
Yes,
today, and might be a delta wave or a
Right.
alpha wave another day.
right. And it's feeding it back at the speed of 256 milliseconds per second, or back into the software, then it's sending it back quickly to your central nervous system in real time.
So if it's trauma related, is that person able to process those traumas and release them?
They don't speak to that. I can say that I had a little girl that had had an extensive trauma history, and she'd been on tons of different medication, and she just could not regulate at all, couldn't sleep, couldn't be maintained in a childcare environment. Parents were about to lose their jobs because they were constantly, or the mom was about to lose her job because she was constantly having to leave work to go find another childcare. And she did 5 sessions and went to kindergarten, had no ISP, did amazing through kindergarten. Halfway through first grade was the last time I checked in, did amazing through that. Never needed, we requested an ISP in kindergarten and they said, why? That, which is unbelievable. I mean,
What's the success ratio? I mean, did everybody who is treated with this respond positively, or there's a percentage?
whenever they've got actually data and it breaks it down on the, I think I may have it linked on my website, changemymindconsulting.com, but it actually links it down by each different issue that people present with, and it'll tell you the percentage of increase they felt after 5 sessions, 10 sessions, 15 sessions, or 30 sessions. I'll tell you from my experience, I've probably done neurofeedback with about 75 people here in Dothan at this point, and I've had nobody that's had a negative experience. Do you want to share thumbs up? Okay.
Yeah, I had my 9th session this morning, at the exchange. I would thank Troy Fountain if he were here, but Wiregrass Foundation, as she mentioned, paid for all the executive directors of the nonprofits that they partner with to do 10 sessions, and so I had my 9th one this morning. It is awesome. I've always been one that wakes up probably 8 times a night, on an average time, and I wake up only to go to the bathroom because I drink water every day, and I'm 60, so I have to go to the bathroom, and I sleep better than I have my whole life. I started the first Monday in June. The only thing I would tell people, I told Mary Beth, I think just book for a first session. And I don't even need a commission there. I believe at 8:30, this morning was at 9:30. But my favorite time to at 8:30, and Mike Smith was like, oh my gosh, we're ready to start Monday morning. I said, oh, I could afford it. I would go every Monday morning at 8:30 till I retire. It's awesome. It's the most relaxing 30 minutes. I just feel rejuvenated. I'm sleeping great. I won't say, I mean, the stress part, I'm not an overly stressed person. I do worry and campaign and fundraising and all that. But, my staff would have to tell you if I've been any different on that. But it's been, but I feel very positive about that. But to me, and the things that are just the sleep has been off. Too much. And last night, I slept great. I had one session last week. I did most of mine the first 2 weeks of June. And then now I'm just finishing up. I get one more that's paid for. But Donna, just had to leave for a meeting. She's done, I think, 8 or 9 of her stations. She does all of hers at 3:30. She's like, I can't get there at 8:30. I can't get to work and get busy. I said, well, I'm just I did one in the afternoon. I didn't enjoy it. It was just too much was running through my brain, and I couldn't relax. That was my fault, not the couldn't. This morning I was about to sleep, and I don't take naps. I don't fall asleep easy. And so, every nonprofit director I talk to that is doing this, 100%. Literally, Jeff, 100% feedback and calls.
All right, and the way the Wiregrass Foundation did that was not through Change My Mind. They actually, in return for buying a system like that for us to use for the Exchange Center, because I've been using my system for the Exchange Center clients, and that was getting kind of taxing. And so, in return for them buying a machine for me to use for Exchange Center clients, they said, we'll buy you the machine, but first do the executive directors, and then y'all can keep the machine to use for your clients, which is amazing. So we can also offer it to our clients still, but I can also use my machine for my business now instead of, my husband kept saying, how come everything you do turns into a nonprofit? Absolutely. So it did not have an impact in terms of obviously restoring her memory, but what it did impact is whenever she first started declining, she had really high anxiety, obviously a lot of fear, restlessness, couldn't sleep, and they put her on some medication. and it made her start hallucinating, and that really bothered me. I didn't like that at all. So we discontinued that medication. We started doing the neurofeedback 5 days a week. She is so calm and relaxed now. In fact, I took her to the pool with me Saturday and they had, or Sunday, and they had music playing and she was over there dancing and cutting up and just living her best life. And so that fear, that anxiety has definitely dissipated, and she sleeps at night now instead of pacing and getting up. And a lot of people that have dementia will get their nights and days and stuff like babies do a lot of times. And so that she's not having to experience anymore. And honestly, that gave my heart a world of good, because it's sad enough to see them decline in that way, but to see them look scared or to be anxious is heartbreaking.
I read somewhere about the number of hours of sleep versus not rest. Sleep, rest, not the same thing.
Right. This is talking about that deep REM sleep. And because a lot of people will sleep or rest or lay, I would try to lay down at night and not be able to go to sleep. And so I just lay there and read, and I thought that was fine. But it's talking about getting that deep REM sleep where your body can actually restore and heal.
Is there a correlation between the amount of sleep you get and dementia?
Yes, it's one of the number one predictors, that and hearing loss. Yes.
You have one machine that goes out.
Yes.
How does that work?
I have several machines. Now I have several machines, and I rent them out at 5 weeks at a time. And so I have a list of people who get on when they want to rent them to use in the home. Usually it's families. We do have some people that will say they're not self-disciplined enough to do it at home, or they don't have anybody that will hook them up, but they like coming into the agency and being able to be hooked up and kind of do campers for a little bit, and get there and get away from all the chaos of their home sometimes. And so I keep one machine there, and then I keep 3 rented out.
We got 4.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is the program the same for a 7-year-old versus a 70-year-old?
Yes, sir. Because it's reading their individual brain. And sometimes for kids, it's not that much. Like I also had another family that came in through Change My Mind. So the child had no history of trauma, but was just kind of, had some inattentiveness and behavior issues at school because he just couldn't sit still. And he came in for 2 sessions, and mom was like, he doesn't need anymore. He's great. No, I think she had 2 or 3 weeks where he had no behavior issues at school, going to sleep at night with not fighting, just, those kinds of things. Yes, sir.
This is more of a comment as a supportive of what you're saying. My youngest daughter actually is a doctor, psychiatric family, and has been involved in that field for more than 12 years. We talk all the time about different modes of people getting into, and she's given me some great feedback, because I too was a 4 or 5 hour night sleeper. Went to bed every night at 11, got up at 3 a.m. And that was the time that I was the most creative. And so then I would go back to bed at 5 a.m. I know it sounds crazy, and take a nap and get back up with the family at 6.
Right.
And function that way for many, many years. We were talking about what states do you get in to get creative. And when she was working for a health provider as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, a couple, 3 years ago, not violating HIPAA, because I don't know who the person was.
Right.
But she had a very famous natural songwriter that was one of her patients that had a lot of psychological problems, but wrote hit songs. He had got into a lull, and he came to her on Thursday and said, "Tara, I'm about to be bombed. I can't create any songs. Everything I write has been rejected. I'm as dry as a bone. Can you please let me become that?" And the thing was, and she said, "Yeah, I'll get you that. You need to stay home, but I'll get you in that state." So she altered his medication and purposely let the man become mad.
Right.
He started writing hit songs.
Right.
He knocked out 3 hit songs in the next week and a half.
Right.
Because he was mad. So sometimes when you're in a manic state, or you're right there on that borderline,
Right.
is some of the times you become most creative.
Right.
So
Yeah.
your biofeedback, whether it's through what you're doing or other phases of medication, is a strong predictor of what you can or cannot do
Absolutely.
in your business. So
Absolutely. And
this
something
is
I
a real
do.
deal for people that maybe sit here and say, "Yeah, it's
Right.
not stuff." No, it's weird.
Right, absolutely.
And
And
I applaud you for
honestly,
doing it.
I didn't even consider it until my daughter experienced it, because I kind of wrote it off as a little bit out there as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Anxiety problem.
Absolutely, yes, sir. You know, what it does is, you know, it doesn't necessarily treat any diagnosis because it's diagnostic, but what it does is help regulate your brain state so that you can shift into calm, you know, it just enhances your resilience, your mental resilience.
So you rent it out, you use it every day, at the house, or no, it's just once a week?
You can use it however much you want. I rented it to, one time they used it, I mean, sometimes 2 times a day. Like I like to use it in the morning and at night. It helps me sleep. It helps me wake up. It's just like almost like meditation. You know, they kind of use it to, one guy does his, devotionals. You know, I think you mentioned, you know, something about devotionals the other day. You know, everybody does different things with it. I usually use it 4 nights a week because it just makes me be able to relax. And I've been going through a lot. This last year's been tough, you know, and so it's been really nice to be able to see it working even in real time while I'm going through really hard things, to be able to help me stay resilient. And when I'm at work, be able to focus on work, you know, and when I'm with my family, be able to focus on being with my family. And when I'm ready to go to sleep, be able to focus on going to sleep. A lot of people use this, a lot of athletes use this for peak performance because their head is what gets in the way with their game. You know, they think too much, they overthink, they downgrade themselves. Golf is a big sport where they use this because they need that mental resilience, you know, out there on the golf course. I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I beat my husband all the time. And I'm like, you need to start range training more because I'm gaming on you. I beat him all the time now. So, yes, sir.
Does insurance cover any piece of it?
I just do private pay. There is a biofeedback under some insurance policies where you can submit for reimbursement.
What's the fee again?
$80 per session to rent. It's $1,200 for 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
And as many people in your family can use it as you have, you know, other people that wanted to use it. They could. So there's not limited sessions.
Where are you located?
I'm located in Main Place.
That's up in the country club, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. 213. I think it's 213 Main Place. Don't quote me on that. I should know my address. That's bad. Maybe I need to do a walk where we're going.
What, for an old person like me, how long do this?
I think at least, I mean, I would try to get 20 to 25 sessions because that's what makes it stick. You just do 33 minutes. You could do it once a day. You could do it 4 times a week. If you read it, you got it for 5 weeks. So it'd be easy to get 30 sessions in for 5 weeks.
Five, you think, what that is?
Yeah.
That's something you're for this.
Yeah. So biofeedback is a little bit different. We use a lot of that and basically where we hook you up to the machine. It's really, there's a lot that goes into it, but basically it's where you look at your breath rate, for instance. We'll hook you up to different things and we'll look at, you know, what's your body temperature, what's your breath rate, what's your heart rate, and we teach people that they have the capacity to be able to regulate those things through their breathing. You know, you always hear people tell you, take a deep breath, and you know, usually if you're real high strung like me, you're like, you know, stop, take a deep breath. But actually, when I did that biofeedback part and I saw my breath rate, I breathe at a rate of 23 breaths per second. And actually, that's considered to be really dysregulated. And so you really need to be able to take long, deep breaths where you breathe at 9 breaths per second. And that's a lot more regulated. Yes. Yes, 9 breaths per minute. Because mine was at 23, and that's really high. Yes, thank you. But mine was at 23, and that's really high. So a lot of our clients with trauma, theirs is really up there too. It helps to show you on a screen. You know, you might think you're doing the deep breathing, like I always felt like I was doing the deep breathing, but then it has you just kind of trace this thing with your breath, and it shows you that you're way off. And so what you try to do is pace with that, to get your breath to pace with that, and then you can actually see when you're doing that your heart rate will come down, that your body temperature will regulate. And so it's more about just your physiological response to stress. All right, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's funny. What's your address?
That just tells you you have a lot going on. Thanks, ma'am, for being with us today and for such a great impact you have on community. All right, next week's program, it's been a couple months ago. I think I was filling in for Greg and Sean Gibson spoke. I suggested that we have him back to do some training for our club. So we'll have this whole facility opened up next week, and Sean and some of the folks he works with will come, and we'll have some CPR training. So have a little different change of pace in next week's program. So that should be fun. Hope to see everyone here. Thank you to all the guests that are here today. Thanks for being with us. Hope to see you again soon. And to all those that helped out with today's program. Congratulations to Tom West, Arthur Gardner, and Jim Kelly for your recognition today. Well deserved. With that, will you please stand to recite the four-way test? The things we think, say, and do is true. Is fair to all concerned. It will be beneficial to all concerned. Have a great week.